You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. I am happy to be here with you today. It's Friday, April the 3rd, a day before Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968. So we are so pleased to have you join us. And for the second guest today, it's me, just me. I'm only sharing my column with you all that I have in the Washington Informer newspaper this week. And so it's all about Dr. Martin Luther King. So let's go to Dr. Julianne Malwell right now. And how are you today, Dr. J?
I am great, Lindy, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your column.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important that we do remember Dr. King, and of course, April 4th was a very important day. You know,
Yes.
in Atlanta, SCLC women,
Mm-hmm.
Southern Christian Leadership Council women, are gathering. They're having a big gala on the 4th. Evelyn Lowry, who was the spouse of Dr. Joe Lowry,
Mm-hmm.
founded SCLC Women.
Mm-hmm.
And my dear friend Pat Ford, former executive vice president of SEIU Union, she has taken over as the president of that board. And they will have a huge gala in Atlanta. And I'm just so proud of her for the work she's done. But I'm even more than that, proud of Mrs. Lowry for the fact that she made sure that SCLC women always remembered this date, April 4th, as Dr. King's death day, not birthday, but the day that he was assassinated. So I just want to lead with that because it's so very important, Lyndia.
Well, the topic of my column this week, it says, Remembering Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And second line is, don't just mourn the man, move the mission.
There you go.
So that's what my column is about this week. All right, go ahead, Dr. J.
So, Congress is on recess.
Mm-hmm.
We have all this stuff going on. That man who lives in the house that enslaved people built did sign an executive order to pay TSA, but it's a temporary order, so we don't know if TSA is going to be paid in perpetuity or if this is just a stopgap measure. We do know what's happened at airports. I haven't been to one, praise the Lord. I don't know if you have, but the
No.
lines for a while were snaking out 3-4 hour waits in Houston, especially. Some of the airports here in DC, Atlanta was a mess. Now that some of them are getting paid, the lines seem to be shorter, according to what the reports are. But at the same time, we've lost more than 2,000 TSA workers. People have said, I can't live like this. I quit. They can't, they have not, it's not just not the paychecks. They're getting their pay money now. But guess what else you miss when you don't get paid? You have late fees on your mortgage, late fees on
Oh,
your
yeah, that's true.
late fees on your utilities.
Bills
You have
going
other
up.
challenges.
Bills going up. Yes.
Exactly. You have other challenges. And some people have said no. And some of them have been veterans, Lyndia. They've been with TSA for 10, 15, 20 years and like, I'm not going to live like this anymore. So the whole TSA infrastructure backbone has been weakened because of what this president chose to do. And why do I say he chose to do? If he could sign an executive order in late March, how come he couldn't sign it 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago? There's deliberate pain inflicted on the American people who are traveling, people on spring break, all of that. So let's just put a pin in that and talk about Congress being on recess.
Okay.
They packed up their stuff and went home.
Mm.
We have all these things that are looming and pending. We have, of course, the war. He doesn't want to call it a war. It is a war in Iran. And we have more than that. But he has just, he told Mike Johnson, little Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, to send the people home. He sent them home. So there is no negotiation, no conversation, no nothing. The people have just gone home. This doesn't make any sense. The Senate went home first when they passed their action to pay TSA. but Congress did not have the opportunity to discuss it. And as you know, Lyndia, when the Senate and the Congress have legislation, what happens? They have to discuss it. If the Congress changed just one thing on the Senate legislation, it had to be concurred on. But they
Mhm.
have not done that. So they're going to be gone until the week. Easter is Sunday, and they're going to be gone until after Easter. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, unless somebody brings them back, and either house could bring them back, but unless somebody brings them back, that's what we have. So we have a House of Representatives and a Senate that are out of control and non-responsive to the American people. Um, However, the good news, if there's any good news in here, is that people have learned the civics lesson. And the civics lesson is that we don't have no kings in America.
That's right.
We we have no kings. And so last Saturday, 3,300 actions to protest this king. 3,300 actions, including in small towns and big cities. Uh, Minneapolis was the main one, of course, with the two people, Renee Good and Alex Pettit, both were killed. They had more than 200,000 people out. But anywhere you went, there were people. The 50,000 in San Francisco. I don't know how many in New York. Every city. The good thing about that No Kings demonstration and rally, you had people in every congressional district, Lyndia,
Hmm.
every single congressional district, and some of them were in districts that man won.
Right.
People were still coming out because they were like, what is this? Why are we putting up with this? What is going on? And so we have that going on. And we just have to applaud the people who did the No Kings rallies, the organizing and all of that. But the big question, as many people have been writing, Dr. Stacy Patton, uh, used to be a professor at Howard. I'm not sure where she is now, but she had a very good piece on Instagram, and she said, okay, we rallied, now what? And this is always a question when we have a rally. Okay, we rallied, now what? And
Hmm.
so that's a really great question to ask because, Lydia, according to some numbers, 8 million people came
That's
out.
that's what I heard.
8 million. That means 1 in 3 Americans came out.
Largest in the history of this country.
Yeah, it's not 1 in 3. I'm sorry. It's one in I think 300,000. But anyway, a lot of people came out. As you said, it was the largest public demonstration we have ever had.
Yes, it
We have
is.
ever had. And so that is very exciting. People got it, whether they were Democrats or Republicans, whether they were, progressive, whether they were young or old. We had people, I saw a lady in a wheelchair and you saw people with their babies and you saw young people and they were out, and so we just have to applaud them because they're really sending a message and a signal.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, as I said, we are in a war, and what's going on with this war? Well,
Right.
we've seen, we don't know what's going on, to tell you the truth. Nobody does because even the president doesn't know what's going on. And little Hespeth, he thinks he's a preacher. He's, dropping all kind of biblical verses. All right, but what's the bottom line? The president says he could take Cuba if he wants to. He
Mm.
says he's going to force the straits open. He can't do that. No one has estimated what the resistance with Iran is, but we know that there is resistance. And so there's a lot of blathering and babbling going on. Meanwhile, back there, we are basically at the cusp of World War III. And I don't say that to scare anybody. I'm saying it
It is what it is.
to look at the numbers and to look at what's happening. So here we are. Gas prices almost $2 more than they were a month ago. $2 a gallon, yeah, a gallon more than they were a month ago. Uh, People making micro decisions that are disruptive to community. A friend of mine told me yesterday, my trainer actually, he said he asked a friend of his, they were all together somewhere, and he asked the woman to give him a ride to Bowie, and she told him she couldn't afford to. She said, I just have a half a tank of gas and I'm not going all the way out there because I'm going to have to fill back up. That's the kind of micro decisions that people are making. Do we have enough gas to live comfortably. So there we have it. This is where we
Hmm.
are.
Yes.
Now, when we look at some of this, when we look at, a lot of this, the other thing we have to look at is the gas prices are important. But the uncertainty is even more important. People just don't know what's going on. And that means a lot of people aren't able to plan. A lot of people are not able to look ahead. People are making lifetime decisions. I have people talking about they're not going to take a summer vacation because of what's going on. But guess what? This is what we have. This is what we have. And so this is problematic. And I'm just asking people to pay attention.
And
Uh,
Dr. J, do you have in your included about these robots? Please
the
get to
what?
that too.
The
Uh,
robots?
Yes, I saw Melania walking with a robot at the White House. Did you see that?
I did see that. Well, she walking with a robot. What was it? Her robot, her twin.
I
Um,
don't know, but my daughter's telling me something about they talking about bringing out a lot of robots in the schools to teach. I like look into
I've
that
seen
for
that. Well,
look into it.
AI is spreading. That's
Hmm.
artificial intelligence. And you can go online and you can ask a question, they'll answer the question. You can ask them to write something for you, and they will. I did see the piece where they said that they could have uh, AI become teachers and the live people in the classroom become monitors. So the teacher would tell you, go to this website to get a math lesson, and then they will stand and help you or whatever. I think it's crazy. I think that what, for very intelligent young people, it might work. But we know that all young people are not very intelligent. Many of them are learning disabled. Many
Hmm.
of them have dyslexia. Many of them have other challenges. And guess where all those challenges fall? They fall on the Black community. So this movement towards AI is a movement away from teaching skills. It's away from teaching skills, and who will, who will end up suffering, who will end up paying. And we know who ends up paying. It's the kids who are at the bottom. They will not have the kind of teaching they need. We can turn a child around. We know that, Lyndia. We can turn a child around if they have learning disabilities or learning deficiencies, if they have intensive teaching assistance.
Yes.
We cannot turn a child around with AI. So thank you for raising that, because this is going to become a very big issue. In fact, many people, many households are looking at AI. Some people will be fired, and some people will not be fired. But here's the interesting thing. All these brilliant people who are talking about AI replacing people, they're the ones who are going to be replaced. You can't replace the mechanic who fixes your car.
Hmm.
You can't.
But guess what else is happening? A
What's
lot of
that?
homeschooling. Some of the very ones that's doing this don't have their kids in school. They're doing homeschool.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's what we have. It's a challenge, but it's where we are. We are in a situation of perfect uncertainty with a president and a Congress who don't want to deal with these issues. Instead, they're profiling the petty, and that's what they do. They profile the petty. They have not commented as of now on the No Kings actions. But when you have 3,300 sites and 8 million people saying something, wouldn't you think the president would have something to say?
You would
Well,
think, my goodness gracious,
but
that's
not
a
but
lot.
not this president, not this president.
That's a
So
lot of
we
people.
so we have it's a lot of people and a lot of great people um across everything, across
Hmm.
party lines, across age lines, race lines. I didn't see as many Black people as a lot of people thought we should, but one sister actually broke it down. She said, we're not coming out because we don't want to into ICE,
Hmm.
because Black and brown people are much more at risk for dealing with ICE. So she said, no, we don't want to come out when ICE is in the mix.
Right.
And there you have it. Meanwhile, of course, it is Easter is Sunday, and we expect people to get out because it's Easter Sunday. But what does that mean? We talk about Easter being He is risen. They have risen. Um, does that change anything? I just
Hmm.
throw that out there in the middle of this news to say to people, we will not let ourselves slide backward um, religiously because we have fools governing in our Congress, and then they are fools. They're not. They could be doing all kind of work right now, but they refuse to, and so people are really raising the questions, the important questions for federal workers, for contractors, for communities that depend on federal funding. Uncertainty isn't just about political drama, it's about economic stress. And we're seeing that economic stress everywhere. We're seeing housing challenges, we are seeing educational challenges. Uh, I talked about student loans last week, so I won't talk about them again, but just to say this becomes an issue also. And of course, we can keep talking about the $200 billion. That's $200,000 million that this president has asked. We can also talk about the fact that while he said 2 weeks ago there would be no boots on the ground, now he's saying they want
Boots
boots
are
on the
gonna,
ground.
yeah, they're gonna be boots. How can you say it's gonna be over in 3 weeks talking about boots on the ground? But anyway, it is what it is.
Well, once you put boots on the ground, you extend this. And yet
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's going on. That it's being extended. We know who disproportionately black and brown young people, mostly men, but young people are in the military because they need jobs. And if they can't find jobs anywhere else, they're in the military. So when we start talking about losses, understand that 13% of our enlisted soldiers are black and brown.
All right, but we used up our time, Dr. J. But I want to just say before you conclude, I feel that this is an early war so that it won't just get started by the time November comes, so we can find a way to skip our election. And I pray that we can still have our elections in November.
If the same people who came out on Saturday, the No Kings rally, come out, can keep coming out, we will have an election. But I do agree with you. I think this man would like to avoid an election at any cost.
And have our country in a state of chaos. That's what I think.
Precisely, his approval ratings are down, um, and he's trying to figure it out. Well, figure it out. Get out of Iran. There's so many things that he could do. Get out of Iran, manage this economy properly, but he isn't going to do it. So you know what, Lyndia? We just keep watching. That's all we can do. But we are no ways tired. Dr. King reminded us to keep struggling. April 4th is the anniversary of his death. We will continue the struggle in his name.
All right, and happy Martin Luther King birthday anniversary. This was his assassination. And happy Easter to everybody. We're going to go to our commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
And that day came. I wonder if there are any of us who have any real idea about how despairing many are today. Do you have any concept at all of how hopeless life appears to be for many young people in our day? On every side, there are troubles, and they don't know where to turn. They find no sense of meaning to life. There are not merely passing fancies. They are conditions under which some live all the time without a ray of hope. Invite your friends to worship service. That'll help them. I feel strongly that we need to lift up our voices on these matters because God will be the light that will shine in those dark places.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it, be inspired.
We are back. We're ready now for our second half of our show today. Listeners, I am going to be the guest today. I love Dr. Martin Luther King, as I'm sure every one of you do. But we are approaching this week the date that he was shot, April 4th. So I'm going to share with you my column that's in the Washington Informer newspaper this week in case you don't get a chance to read it. It's entitled, Remembering Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the subheading is, Don't just mourn for the man, move the mission. No use in us just mourning and crying and not doing anything about it. And my scripture is Amos 5:24, which says, But let justice roll down like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. And it goes like this. Greetings, Religion Corner followers. As we remember that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed this week on April 4th, it happened back in 1968. Let us walk through this season of remembrance. My spirit is stirred by the legacy of those who didn't just talk about faith, but lived it out in the streets. My heart is full as I look at our city this week. We are living in a time that demands more than just a Sunday morning faith walk. It requires a Monday through Saturday commitment to the justice the Lord calls for in his word. This week, Washington, D.C. just witnessed a powerful surge of community action that reminds us we are the ones we've been waiting for. Just this past weekend, we saw millions across the nation, including a massive presence right here in the District of Columbia. Take part in the No Kings March. They marched all around the country. 8 million, the largest protest in history in the United States. As thousands crossed the Memorial Bridge into D.C., their message was clear. Power belongs to the people, and we must stand against any rising tide of authoritarianism. It reminds me of the spirit of young Claudette Colvin. In case some of you all don't know, Claudette Colvin was an African-American teenager who, at just age 15 years old, refused to bow to the unjust laws of her time on March 2nd, 1955. She was the first to say no on those Montgomery buses. 9 months before the world knew the names of others. Her courage was a spark that eventually ignited the flame for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose sacrifice we solemnly remember every April 4th. It was 9 months later, Rosa Parks, a seasoned NAACP secretary, continued the fight against segregation by refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus. December 1st, 1955. She was only building upon the earlier pioneering stand of Claudette Colvin. So in case you all haven't heard of her, write that down, Claudette Colvin. Her arrest acted as a catalyst, transforming a spark into a widespread community-driven movement that fundamentally challenged unjust law. But the work doesn't stop at the protests. This week, we must turn our attention to the local fight for dignity and respect. The Free DC campaign is a grassroots movement dedicated to defending Washington, D.C.'s home rule and securing full democratic rights, including statehood, for its 700,000 residents. While the Free D.C. slogan dates back to civil rights days organized in the 1960s by our own Mayor Marion Barry, the modern iteration launched in January last year, 2025, was a direct response to increased federal interference in local affairs. The core goals and principles of the movement operates on the belief that DC residents deserve the right to self-determination without congressional overreach. Its primary strategies are based on global pro-democracy research, focusing on three key principles. The new version of Free DC is a campaign that's mobilizing right now, starting with a movement about building the power necessary to protect our neighborhoods from a hostile administration that seeks to ignore the voices of DC residents. Scripture reminds us in Proverbs 31:8, it says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute." This is why we must also keep a close eye on our local governance. The DC City Council just recently finished its performance oversight hearings for 2026. There may be a little bit more of it going on, but I think they're just about done. Last week's focus included critical issues like education and public works. Whether it's advocating for safer streets here in the District of Columbia or ensuring our children have the resources they need to thrive. Your testimony could have made a difference. In fact, your action would have been a form of prayer in action, because we can't just pray. We got to walk by faith and not by sight. You still can help, though. Keep up with the same oversight hearings, which will be scheduled for 2027. As we prepare for the anniversary of Dr. King's transition this week, that happened on April 4th, let us not just mourn the man, but let us move the mission. Dr. King was taken from us at the Lorraine Motel at 6:01 p.m., but his dream cannot be killed by a bullet if we keep it alive in our works. We are not where we have been for the past 150 years. Things have changed. Each of us, though, must do our part to turn this ship around. If we don't, all of us will go down with the ship. Join a meeting, testify at a hearing, or support the Free DC Project. Let your faith be felt in the halls of power and on the corners of our streets. Let me conclude this week's column with this scripture, which says, "Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow." And that's Isaiah 1:17. I hope you have enjoyed the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things. For this week, good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.